So you want to know what I think a great cinema camera is for under $2,000? Stick around. I got something for you. All right, y'all, what's happening? I'm David Griffin. If you're here for the first time, hit the subscribe button down below. Hit that thumbs up button to go ahead and let that YouTube algorithm know we here, y'all. What's happening? It's been a minute. Last time I was here, I was banging on the GH6, y'all. You know how I feel about it. Good camera, great camera. However, there are some things about that camera that I just don't have a taste for. I don't like the dynamic range optimizing gimmick. I don't like that gimmick, y'all. I don't like having to go to 2000 ISO in order to get the best out that camera. I feel if you're gonna have a camera and you're gonna have 13 stops dynamic range and people are gonna call it like a cinema camera and compare it to cinema cameras, it better have its highest dynamic range almost throughout the entire ISO spectrum. But hey, look, I didn't make the camera. I just got a chance to test it out, use it. I bought it with my own money. Didn't like it too much, decided not to keep it, sent it back. Why? Because I was looking for a camera to do my own small productions. And look, the GH6, for all the great things about it, it just didn't tick off the boxes I needed, y'all. Some of the things that irked me most about this camera were the features that were not active when this camera came out. For example, it said that you could record over the USB-C drive. You can't do that. It's not activated yet. They didn't firmware it up. You know, that should have, if anything, because that camera has an extremely high bit rate of up to 800 megabits a second, it should have came out with that at launch since you're going to use that much memory. Also, the feature that, the one that really had me excited about this camera, RAW capability, that wasn't active or accessible at launch. Look, if you want to get the best out of any camera, you should be able to get RAW out of it where it's untouched by the camera's processing. Look, the GH6 is a great camera, got great color science, better in low light than the GH5, but there are just some things about it that didn't and wouldn't work for me. And one of the bigger things is not having dual memory option recording. For example, 2 memory cards recording simultaneously. That's because one of the memory cards is different from the other. And to me, it would have been better putting off the more expensive compact flash express type B cards for both slots and not just one. What do I think is a great cinema camera in 2022? Well, let's just be honest. I'm using the term cinema camera a little bit loose here because it doesn't hit all of my boxes to be a true cinema camera. But you know what? It ticks off a lot of boxes that could put it in the territory of cinema camera. In fact, its newer baby brother, baby sister camera is actually being used as a cinema camera for Netflix. Hey, it's pretty close. It's almost the same camera. Some of y'all already know what it is. What camera am I talking about? Right here, the GH5S. This camera has nearly everything you need in order to get pretty much cinema quality video footage. Now, this camera is not perfect, okay? We're not gonna play that game. It is not perfect. I'll be the first one to tell you. But what does this camera do have going for itself? I'll just give you a couple of the features. For example, it's a monster in low light. It's got dual gain ISO technology, meaning this camera can switch over the gain circuit to a different ISO, meaning you're gonna have, every camera is tuned to a certain ISO where it performs its best, right? Keep that in mind. One circuit reads out and shows its best at ISO 400, and you keep going up in the ISO, and once you get to about 2500, another circuit kicks in, and that circuit gives it its best possible image from ISO 2500. But that's not all. This camera, if you change over to the HLG profile or change over to the Vlog profile, probably the best profile this camera has that it comes built in out the factory with, guess what? You get ISO 800 as your low and ISO 5000 as your high. Those circuits are taking this camera and giving it the ability to shoot great video footage in low light. Take a look. Honey, is that you?
I'm sorry I have to do this.
Who are you?
But he knows what you did.
What? No!
We are not complete yet. You hear them? They still breathe. We are not finished. Go back in. Complete the mission. Yes.
I can't do this anymore. The job's finished.
We are not complete. You little worm. I will make you sleepwalk into your daughter's room with a knife. I will make you cut out her heart.
No!
I am not finished. Go back in.
Okay. I'll obey. I'll do whatever you ask. This isn't fair. You offered me redemption. Instead, you turned me into your butcher. This isn't fair. You could have picked anybody in the world. Why me?
You see, this camera is made for low light. It's the Micro Four Thirds answer to the Sony S series of low light capable cameras. Would I say it's a true answer? Probably not. But what it does got going for it, besides just having that low light ability, it can shoot 4K. It can shoot 4K 60. It can shoot 4K 60 in 10-bit. It can shoot 4K 60 in 12-bit RAW with an external recorder like the Atomos Ninja V or the Blackmagic Video Assist. This camera can give you raw video footage from here with an external recorder. Raw footage, 12 bits. That means your camera is seeing 1 billion colors. With color flexibility like that, it'll be hard to mess up your image. It's very difficult to break your image. That is cinema camera territory right there. The dynamic range is 12 stops on this camera. It is not the greatest. However, I remember there was a cinema camera that was 12 stops. It was a Blackmagic Ursa camera, if you go back and do your history and do your research. You guys, this camera is putting out the same image quality capability as a true cinema camera in certain respects. Also, this camera has cinema camera features like time code in and out, so you can keep all your footage synchronized and not lose sync. Think about it. How many times have you ever had to clap and sync your footage? Well, imagine you got about 50 takes, 50 different shots, 50 different sets of audio that you got to line up. This camera, because it does time code, that's not a problem no more. One press of a button in your software, guess what? It lines it all up. Everything is synced up to the same audio. Beautiful, right? Yeah, time code. It's got the flip screen. This is one of the things that set Panasonic apart from everybody before the flip screen became ubiquitous and ready for everybody's camera, right? They've been had that. It's got an excellent screen. Pretty good to see in most daylight situations, but not all. What else do you got going on the inside? You got something called 4K live cropping. That 4K live cropping is like having a little person in the computer, in the camera, running a mini slider for the camera that you set. For example, look at the footage here. You see, what we're doing is, I'm not doing this with a slider. I got the camera locked down on a tripod, and that's the computer software making this pan. This camera has waveforms. It's an easy way for you to get great exposure on everything. Very easy to read. The camera's got focus peaking. The camera's got linear focusing as well. Let me go back to focus peaking. Focus peaking is a way where the camera puts an outline, a colored outline around what you have in focus. It makes getting focus and nailing it easy. Plus it's got punch in where you can turn your lens, the camera can automatically punch in and show you that area. Many other cameras are just now getting those features because they copied what Panasonic did. I'm sorry, maybe Panasonic copied it from somebody else, but that feature's here. So nailing critical focus is right there. You got focus transitions in this camera. You can program the camera to automatically rack focus to point, and you can control the speed and the timing of that. Who don't want nothing like that? Come on now. Now let's go back to linear focusing. Linear focusing, as you know, I've talked about Panasonic's lenses because they're fly-by-wire. That means it's electronic-based focusing. If you take that lens and put it in manual focus, the distance to make the focus move from front to back is based on how fast you turn that lens. Well, that's terrible because if you're shooting a film narrative project, my favorite type of project to film, the last thing you want to do is have to worry about spinning a lens exactly the same speed and time to make the focus move to where you need it. But that's where linear focusing comes in. It maps the lens out in a way where it's not how fast you turn it, but the distance you turn it, just like a regular manual mechanical lens. That is a saving grace feature. The only problem is not every lens that Panasonic has is able to use this feature. So you need to check your lens to see if it does. For example, the ubiquitous 12 to 35 millimeter lens, it can do linear focusing. What that means, you can do focus racking with that lens and do films. Combine that lens at f2.8 with the low light capability of the GH6, you got a monster going on. Plus it's got its own form of IBIS in that lens. Let me go back, IBIS. The camera, it don't have IBIS. Everybody ragged on this camera, and even I ragged on the camera for not having IBIS, but that's because I was a baby and not understanding narrative production does not rely on in-body image stabilization. That's a feature that the GH5 has, it takes full advantage of. The GH6 goes way further with that feature. It is a great feature to have, but this camera says if you're gonna do narrative work and you wanna lock down and stabilize your footage, go ahead and get you a gimbal. Go ahead and get you a tripod. Go get you a monopod. Go use a slider. Go use a dolly. Use something to stabilize this camera. Now that is something I definitely wish I had on this camera. That's something we begged the GH6 to be. Just give me a GH5S with IBIS. That's what everybody wanted. Panasonic didn't do it. All right, we gotta live with it. But that's what we got, y'all. So look, these are some of the critical features that, in my opinion, make the GH5S a great starter cinema camera. All right, I'm David Griffin. That's my take. Of course, there are other cinema cameras out there that you can get that are true cinema cameras, like the Sigma FP, which is a fantastic camera, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, but those cameras don't have the same thing. Those cameras, in my opinion, beat this camera out in image quality. But this, as the total package, especially like weather sealing and not having to fear the rain, this camera comes out on top. And it's no joke when it comes to sharpness, maybe even over sharp in some people's eyes. But look, y'all, I'm David Griffin. That's my take. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, share this video. Let's see what you think about it. Go ahead, hit me in the comments below. Let's have some good, healthy discussion, y'all. All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace.